The European Union is moving forward with a highly controversial plan to use frozen Russian assets held in European banks as financial support for Ukraine. While not yet finalized, the proposal has already sparked fierce debates across Europe, raising legal, political, and economic questions. For many, this represents one of the boldest steps the EU has considered since the start of the war. According to the proposal, the EU would not directly confiscate Russian assets. Instead, it would use the frozen funds as collateral for a massive loan to Ukraine, worth around €140 billion. The idea is that Ukraine would not have to repay the loan unless Russia itself pays reparations for the war. In other words, the risk would remain with Moscow. This financial maneuver is meant to avoid direct legal violations of international law. Normally, state-owned reserves are considered sovereign and protected. By structuring the plan as a loan backed by frozen funds, the EU hopes to sidestep accusations of theft while still channeling money toward Ukraine's defense and reconstruction. But the plan faces serious internal obstacles. Belgium, home of Euroclear, the clearinghouse holding most of the frozen Russian assets, has voiced concerns about legal risks and potential lawsuits. France and Luxembourg have also expressed doubts, warning that such a move could shake confidence in the euro and the European banking system. Even the European Central Bank has quietly warned that trust in Europe's financial markets might be at stake. Moscow has condemned the idea as outright theft. Russian officials warn that any attempt to redirect its assets will trigger a strong response, possibly including seizures of European property in Russia or new waves of sanctions. Analysts believe this step could open a dangerous new front in the economic war between Europe and Russia. Supporters of the plan argue that Europe cannot afford to let billions of frozen assets sit idle while Ukraine struggles for survival. They say that Russia, as the aggressor, should ultimately pay for the destruction it has caused. If implemented, this would mark the first time in history that a state's frozen assets were systematically redirected to compensate victims of war. In conclusion, the EU's proposal to leverage frozen Russian assets is as groundbreaking as it is risky. It could provide Ukraine with desperately needed resources, but it also pushes the boundaries of law, finance, and diplomacy. If it succeeds, it may set a precedent for holding aggressor states accountable. If it fails, it could fracture trust within the EU and provoke harsh retaliation from Moscow. The world now watches closely as Europe decides whether to take this historic gamble.
Stay informed, stay briefed. Subscribe for more world news in 3 minutes.